in terms of the dynamics, I'm not gonna just talk about the volume, because we're gonna be using the mod wheel information first and foremost, which is what we get when you go into here. You can see there's different curves, and that's what I want to be manipulating now. But before I actually get into that, I just want to quickly bring out a violin to show you what this does, because mod wheel is not just about the volume. When you have an instrumentalist, or a violinist in this case, and you paint these mod wheel curves and lines and stuff, what you're basically telling the samples or the player is how much pressure they should apply with their bow on the string. And this is more than just volume, because you can choose to play something like this, or like this. The volume is different, but the first example has a silky, smooth tone to it. While if you play harder, you get a lot more of grit, and there's a lot more friction between the bow and the string, and you get a lot more kind of like an overdrive or saturation and bite, and a much less mellow and silky tone. So this goes for any instrument. Like I can put the violin away, and I can bring out basically any of my instruments, and you will have a similar effect. Like if I bring out a guitar, like just this one real quick, if I play a note softly, I don't know if you can even hear that. Let me do it closer. It's a very warm tone. But if I pluck harder, you get like a snappy, almost overdrive, and you hear the buzz of the string, and it creates a lot more overtones, and it changes the whole tone, color, and timbre of the instrument beyond just volume. So that's just something very important to know about. That goes for all instruments in the orchestra. They all have different timbres and different tone colors depending on how forceful you're, say, blowing into a tuba or a horn compared to playing it very softly. So that is something you need to be aware of. So this is for me playing, and I'm just kind of trying to find the sweet spot. This is not the final curve, so I might just want to do something like this. Might make this the peak and then make it die down towards the end of this phrase. And this is too much, so I want this to maybe go up to here a little bit more than the first one. And then I want it to build up towards some kind of peak around here, but not as extreme as it is. And I want it to build down. So I'll try something like this maybe. Let's see. Maybe start a little bit higher and not go as intensely up. And then this is ramping up and down, so I might smoothen this out a little bit and have a bit more control over it than all these little dots from playing. And here, this is the peak, and I might want this to start up here. And maybe since I've taken away the high note, maybe I want this to be the high note. Let me try that. You can spend quite some time on this. This is not the most fun part of composing, but it's a necessary one if you want the mock-ups to sound realistic. The best part is that, like, if you're recording something live, you don't really have to do that much of this stuff because it can sound absolutely like garbage but as long as you have the information required for an orchestrator to put it onto paper or do it yourself, you're good. That's all that matters, because no one's going to listen to that mock-up. They're going to listen to the real thing once it's recorded. Just going to want to take 1 minute or so to mention that the reason I'm kind of going like this and in the beginning just rushed through the orchestration and arrangement is that I like to kind of separate the tasks a little bit. At least I recommend doing that for people who are more starting out and getting comfortable. It's because if you're, for every note you're playing or every voice you're kind of adding in, if you're thinking about the orchestration, the mock-up, the mix and the mastering at once, you have a lot of pressure, a lot of decisions for every decision you need to make. And it just becomes very overwhelming and confusing. So when I'm composing, I like to just compose. And then when I'm arranging, I'll focus on arranging. And then when I'm fixing the mock-up like I'm doing now, I'm focusing just on that, and maybe I'll fix a few things like you see. But then when I get to the mixing stage, I'll focus on mixing. Of course, now when I'm just working day to day, it's not that strict. I'll be mixing a little bit, I'll be doing this, I'll be getting, the arrangement and the composition in my head as an idea at once. But I mean, just as a general idea or just as a mindset when you're working, I would recommend doing this in the beginning, and then you can find something that works for you. But make sure you don't overload your brain and your workflow with too many things, so you just end up spending too much time just getting 4 measures, because you might get 4 measures that are amazing. The mix is great, the samples are perfect, the modulation is spot on. But then you might realize well, I'm not going to be able to turn this into composition. The idea is not that great. Because once you flesh it out, you realize, I don't like it. So you scrap it and you wasted maybe 3 hours of your day. Instead, what I like to do is to sketch out my composition in, say, a few minutes, 10 minutes, get all the main ideas in there, see, do I like it? Do I not like it? And then move on from there. That's what I'm kind of focusing on in my orchestral sketching course, which I really recommend checking out for this purpose. Where in this course, I'm showing you methods I'm using to come up with 3 different theme ideas orchestrated roughly in 15 minutes. And then from there, I decide which one I like and I want to flesh out, and I go about it that way. So this is the key kind of areas that I look at when making sure my orchestrations and mockups are more realistic and just better to listen to, basically. That's the essence of it. Let's listen to it one way, one time through, I guess, and then we'll leave it at that. Hope this has been helpful. Do those steps in your tracks, and I'm sure you're gonna make them sound a lot better. So hope this is helpful. See you guys later.